this is a recognition of the importance of Africa to the United States. Kenya is the country that's being honored, but it is I think it's a recognition that Africa is a very, very important continent, certainly to the world, but particularly to America in the next 20 years.
Why?
Now, the American ambassador, Meg Whitman, recently spoke about the reason they are targeting Nairobi, the reason they're targeting Kenya. There is no fluke about it. Make no mistake about that. Kenya obviously is an anchor country in the region. Let's listen to the ambassador and please share your thoughts, share your comments. Great revelations from this ambassador. It's shocking, really. Take a look.
I think President Biden has recognized the future importance of Africa, the demographics that you and I discussed, that America needs to pay more attention to Africa as a trading partner, as a regional peace and security partner. And, you know, in life, half the battle is showing up. And I think for many years we did not show up as we might have on the continent. And really under this administration, we have showed up in a much bigger way. The African Leaders Summit, I think, you know, in fact, me being asked to go to Kenya in some ways underscores that. And so I think the strategy is we're going to show up. We're going to do everything we can to offer Kenyans and other African countries a choice of who you do business with, who you do regional peace and security. So it's not you can only do business with us or only work with us, but we need to have a set of offerings that is more attractive than perhaps our geopolitical competitors. It really does two things. It underscores the strength of the relationship between Kenya and the United States. You know, we've been working together for 60 years on regional peace and security, on trade and investment, on shared, now recently, climate solutions. And this has been quite a tight working relationship for many years. It's had its ups and downs, like every relationship, but it has been a very solid relationship. And I think it is an acknowledgement of that relationship on the occasion of the 60th anniversary, if you will, of the partnership. And it will have the highest level of the United States government really focused on this, and we will discuss a lot of issues that are important to both countries. I think one of the reasons I was asked to be the ambassador to Kenya was because of Silicon Savannah. Today, Kenya is the technology capital of East Africa and actually probably the technology capital of the entire continent. And we will talk about that and the digitalization actually of the continent. And I should also say I think this is a recognition of the importance of Africa to the United States. Kenya is the country that's being honored, but it is I think it's a recognition that Africa is a very, very important continent, certainly to the world, but particularly to America in the next 20 years.
Why?
Well, as you well know, by 2050, 1 in 4 people on Earth will live in Africa, and 1 in 3 working-age people will live in Africa. So it's going to be the locus of population. It will be the youngest population. Therefore, it's with the working age, and it will be the largest consumer market in 2050. So that makes everyone need to stand up and say, you know, what are we going to do with Africa?
Is there a balance of relations between Kenya and the US? And when I ask that because are we looking at both countries seated at the table with equal tools with which to operate this relationship? Or are we seeing that the US is big brother to Kenya and is leading the way?
Yes, the United States is a much bigger economy.
Indeed.
But I would say, and regional peace and security, you're leading the way there. We're, you know, behind the scenes trying to help. So I'd say it's quite equal. Probably the advantage that America has is a much bigger economy.
How does it feel to be in the Situation Room? I would imagine it feels good because the US ambassador has managed to virtually have the Kenyan administration in the American government's pocket. That's the truth. So Kenya is doing the bidding for the US. Kenya is a targeted country, and Kenya is an anchor country for some of the activities that the US wants to do in Africa, especially in the Horn of Africa region. That is an area that is exposed to a lot of terror activity, which obviously has implications on American installations in the country of Kenya, along the east towards the southern region of Africa, but most importantly, on American soil and on the lives of Americans.
That we are stronger and the world is safer when Kenya and the United States work together.
President Ruto just came back from a state visit in the US. A lot of discussions bilateral talks, bilateral agreements. But the core thing is that the US is looking out for its own interests. The security question in the region means that America will have the opportunity to have a real base in East Africa, along Kenya's Lamu region, Manda Bay, where they already have a presence. And increasingly now, the base would probably be much more expanded with greater facilities. But it also means that the American government is also going to have a greater involvement or integration with the Kenyan security forces. This would both be good and bad. The good side would probably be that in terms of response for any enemy attacks, that they would be in that region, which has always been a lot of trouble for the nation of Kenya. They would be ready to help fend off any attacks. And that would be considered a positive. But on the other hand, Kenya will leave itself open to the influence of America's security systems. And that means a lot of interference, even in the way we run our affairs. And the temptation to dictate certain aspects of our security infrastructure, which then, to a very large degree, will undermine Kenya's sovereignty. Every nation needs to take care of its own interests. Clearly, America in this sense will go to any lengths and approach the countries that seem agreeable, particularly leaders in those countries who are bendable, who are willing to play ball, who are excited about America being a partner. And I think President Ruto demonstrated that. Africa needs to be excited about their own activities on the continent, working to build nations, to build infrastructure, to improve livelihoods. In Kenya, as things stand, the cost of living is so high. Taxes. The reality is, this administration, anything that moves, they tax it. So they will collect tax anyway, anyhow. They are now on vehicles. Soon they are likely to be heavily taxing the ownership of land, buildings. So the country is under undue influence of America, and especially also the Bretton Woods institutions, who are now lending money to Kenya against all manner of requirements and dictates that do not serve for the sovereignty of a nation such as Kenya. These are things that have got to worry Kenyans. Kenyans need to speak about. There are also things that have got to ring certain alarm bells for Africans in the diaspora, in Europe, in the Americas. And suddenly, it is crucial that Africa be aware that America is not only targeting Kenya. Kenya is going to be an operating base, but this position astride the equator gives the US a good footing in terms of being able to access Eastern Africa to the west, Central, and then to Southern Africa, as well as towards the Sahara. So this has been the perfect crack in the door. Inching the foot slowly and surely, America is going to be so heavily involved in Nairobi's business. Kenyans have got to say something. Our brothers and sisters out there, I believe you have something to say. Please share in the comments. Is this something that we can embrace? How can we work with the US without giving away too much? As it is, Kenya has given away too much. And as I've said before, America has always proven to be a destabilizing factor in many of the countries that they have operated. Whether you're talking about Iran, where the Shah eventually was deposed, then ended up dying of cancer in the US. And we saw the Iran conflict escalate to something else. And it's the reason that Jimmy Carter lost the election at that time. He was the incumbent president. So obviously, a series of presidents have been on one mission, which is America's foreign policy, that it's America first, and all the other countries would have to play second fiddle to what America thinks is best for the world. while really America gains. China perhaps is the biggest renegade, and Kenya needs to learn a lesson from China. China was supported by the US in terms of technical support, a bit of financial support. That technical support went a long way into revitalizing the Chinese industry, triggering the technology empire in China. And today, China not only offers a cheap location for the production of goods, but China has developed newer technology, borrowed heavily also from what they got as technical support, and have by now really gone ahead business-wise. They've become an empire that actually threatens America. And this jitteriness with Russia, the East, with China, is really the reason that informs America's activity in Nairobi, in Kenya, and the African region. Because ultimately, they know the true value of what is in Africa in terms of natural resources, in terms of the human population.
Everyone need to stand up and say, what are we going to do with Africa?
Our leaders are clearly not doing the bidding for us. They are working for a foreign power. That is a plain truth. They don't like to hear it. Please share in the comments what you believe, what you think, and hopefully you are Afrocentric enough to realize that we have got to look out for our own business. Africa is our business, and we need not make any apologies about it. This is Afrocentric. Many thanks for watching this far. Always appreciate your support. If you like and this can resonate with you, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and share. And we'll see you in the next video. A lot more coming up. Many thanks and bye-bye.
Ingoma lesiphathile inamba mfethu yo cabanga mfethu